It's the biggest win in Indiana school history. This would have tied the game for Ohio State, but Jaden Fielding just absolutely shanked it from 27 yards out. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not. Then, last chance for the Buckeyes. Julian Sayin airs it out. And Jeremiah Smith actually comes down with it, but it doesn't matter because Kurt Cignetti and Indiana take down number 1 Ohio State 13-10. And Indiana will be number 1 in the AP poll for the first time in school history. More importantly, this season they will be number 1 in the college football playoff ranking. Indiana snaps a streak of 30 straight losses to the Buckeyes. They had not beat Ohio State since 1988. None of the players on this team were alive. Kurt Cignetti said, it doesn't matter the streak. We're changing the mindset. We're changing the culture. And what did they do in this game against Julian Sayin? They sacked him 5 times in this game. Consider he was sacked just 7 times the entire regular season. Indiana, Big Ten champions for the first time in school history, winning the championship game. They won a couple others, but this is their first Big Ten championship victory. And again, Ohio State losing its first game of the season, snapping a 16-game win streak dating back to the loss against Michigan last season. This Big Ten championship postgame report is presented by Capital One, here with former Penn State tight end Adam Brenneman and CBS Sports college football insider Richard Johnson. You guys both know I am a massive Ohio State fan. Julian Sayin was rattled in this game, sacked 5 times. But my goodness, Adam, Fernando Heisman-Doza, 2:30 to play in this game. 3rd and 6 to Charlie Becker. You want to talk about a big-time play? That was the Heisman moment right there for Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, for Mendoza, it wasn't just a Heisman moment. It's a program-defining moment.
Yep.
Think about how big this is for Indiana. Year 2 for Kirk Cignetti. It's really remarkable. One of the best coaching jobs we have seen in the history of college football. And Cignetti has gotten Fernando Mendoza to play as well as any quarterback in college football. I mean, Mendoza clinched the Heisman Trophy with this performance, and it wasn't lights out at all times, but it was clutch when it had to be. And that throw that you mentioned there on the final drive to seal the game against the best defense in the country. This was an Ohio State defense with 4 first-round draft picks that has great defensive line, pass rushers, and Mendoza was calm all game.
Right after the game, Fernando Mendoza on the field, I think, explained what it is about this program that makes it so special under Kurt Cignetti. It's not sexy, it's not flashy, it's efficient, it's competent, it's well-coached, and it wins. At the end of the day, they are physical, and they move people up front. They've moved Oregon a month and a half ago, and they moved Ohio State tonight. Indiana is just so impressive under Kurt Cignetti, what they have built. There's no smoke and mirrors here. There's no razzle-dazzle. It's just meat and potatoes, blue-collar football, and it just won the Big Ten.
Are you okay, Hakeem? Are you feeling okay after that,
No,
after that loss?
I'm not. I mean, and look,
check in on you.
I said this all week long. Ohio State hadn't seen a quarterback back like this all season long. This is a different quarterback. And you saw, like, first play of the game, right? They knock him out for a play. They knock Fernando Mendoza out of the game for one play. He comes back. And then, look, he wasn't lights out in the first half. It was the second half where it was the difference for Fernando Mendoza. That was the difference in the second half, was what he did on the field. Yeah,
I mean, Mendoza made plays when they had to be made in the second half. But to me, it was really the other side of the ball for Indiana that was the most impressive.
Oh, disruptive.
I mean, you talk about holding Ohio State to 58 yards rushing. Ohio State had 4 trips to the red zone, only had 1 touchdown. They were in Julian Sayin's face all day. That allowed Fernando Mendoza to not have to do too much, to just kind of control the game, not have to push the ball down the field too much. And all the talk will be about Mendoza, rightfully so, but that Indiana defense is elite.
Well, Mendoza, both quarterbacks were under duress, but Mendoza was under duress a lot in this game. He was running backwards in the pocket at some point in time in this game. Ohio State's swarming pass rush obviously was getting after him and affecting him. But Indiana up front, I mean, you just cannot say enough. Ohio State, I thought, really struggled to block Indiana with the different movement patterns that they have up front with those defensive linemen. It's hard to get a hat on a hat and keep a hat on a hat for an entire play. And they were getting after Julian Sain, speeding him up a little bit and just being better at the point of attack.
All right, so Ohio State late in the third quarter, 4th and 1. We think Julian Sain picks up the first down. Thought he got a couple of yards. They review it. He was short, turnover on downs. Could have kicked a field goal there, tied the game. Then 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter, 27 yards out. It's a chip shot for Jaden Fielding, and he just shanked it. I mean, sometimes you need in these big games, you need a little bit of luck. And Indiana dominated on the defensive line. I get it. They sacked Julian Sain, but for that field goal to get missed from 27 yards, and I know Radicic missed a field goal earlier in the game as well, but that moment right there, that was massive, missing that field goal, because now you're putting all the pressure back on your defense to shut it down.
Yeah, it was Ohio State's chance to tie the game. I mean, I can't believe he missed that field goal.
Either can I.
But to be honest, I think that's a mistake by Ryan Day.
You do? Okay.
Let's think about the situation. It's 4th down and 1. Okay, you're in the red zone. You have Julian Sain at quarterback. You have a run game that has been good all season, been struggling in this game. You also have the best receivers in the country outside, and you get a chance there to go try to win the game against Indiana in the conference championship game. I think deciding to kick the field goal on 4th and 1 is a weak call. I think analytics probably tell you to go for it there and try to win the game, try to go up by a touchdown right there, especially with the playmakers that you have. I think Ryan Day mismanaged that and put his team in a bad position.
Do you think, though, he had like a little bit of PTSD there because they went
one?
right
Yeah.
because of the previous one, right? We went for it on 4th and 1. We got stopped, so let's kick the field goal because we need 3 to potentially send this to overtime.
Yeah, but then, and I guess maybe that, if we miss, they got 90 yards to drive or what have you. They also had timeouts in the pocket too. It was an interesting call for sure.
So you think it was mismanaged there? You would have went for it on 4th and 1.
For sure. And really, all those coaches listen to the analytics. Usually, anytime it's 4th down and 1, the analytics almost always tell you to go for it.
Right.
Especially, the point is not to tie the game. The point is to win the football game. And you're Ohio State, 1 yard in the red zone, and you got a new set of downs to go take the lead in the Big Ten championship game. I just don't know why you're playing for a tie right there.
And last week, you proved your physicality. Last week, you proved your mettle against Michigan. You proved that you can do that, and you can ice a game and finish a game on the ground like that.
All right. I got to be a pro here, and I'm going to be a pro. And here's why. Because Curt Cignetti, in 2 seasons, has won a Big Ten championship. Their first Big Ten championship in school history. They've won 3 Big Ten titles, but this is their first Big Ten championship. He's lost 2 games. He's 24-2. They lost last season to Ohio State, then they lost to Notre Dame in the first round of the college football playoff. This team is better than the one from 1 year ago, and this team is nasty because this was 1 versus 2 in terms of defense. Yeah. Ohio State gets all the credit for defense, less than 7 points per game, right, or 8 points per game. This defense for IU is nasty. And consider that Omar Cooper Jr. was banged up in this game. Their defense from both defensive line and their secondary, I mean, they hassled. They were harassing Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. Like, it was a defense they hadn't seen all season.
Well, and the other thing is last year in this game, when these two teams played last year at the Horseshoe, you found out how far away Indiana was as a program for the true upper echelon in the Big Ten and the college football overall. In this game, you realize that Indiana is the upper echelon of college football. It's incredible what they've been able to build and what they've been able to put in. And consider last year, Caleb Downs returns that punt and special teams help Ohio State and push them to the victory. Tonight, they lose the game on special teams with the missed field goal. I almost called it an extra point because it was so close.
That's what it looked like,
right? That's what it felt like. Look, credit to Curt Cignetti. I mean, the culture that he's built, the guys that he's went and got, Fernando Mendoza, the transfer from Cal, I mean, had his Heisman moment. You heard him post-game, how, of course, what a moment this was, finding Charlie Becker. Now you look at Indiana in a different light when they take down the #1 team in the nation, the defending national champs. Indiana can win a national championship. It wasn't a question even coming into this game. They're that good. They have shrunk the disparity, Richard, as you said. This is a team that could just absolutely take the wind out of your sails because that's what they did against Ohio State.
Think about how crazy of a comment that would have been 2 years ago.
Right.
Indiana can win a national championship. The number one thing Kirk Cinetti has done is he's given that entire community and now his players confidence at all times. Those guys play confident. The way Fernando Mendoza plays. How about the receiver, Charlie Becker? I mean, had 130 yards in this game receiving. The defensive line and how they fly around. Kirk Cinetti has given that program belief, confidence, completely changed the trajectory of Indiana football forever. It is absolutely remarkable, Richard.
Right, the second losing the second most losses in FBS history behind only Northwestern or Big Ten history. Right, like to talk about where they've come from to now where they're at. I mean, this is incredible turnaround from Curt Cignetti. And we saw James Madison, and we saw what he does. It's also a product of the era that we're in as well, right? 10 years ago, I don't know if you pull this off. Now you are playing to the strengths of the system, and you're using it to maximum capability, and this is what it looks like in Bloomington.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here is there are a lot of programs that have one-season blips, right? There are a lot of programs that, you have a nice one season, and then you go back to where you classically were in the history of the sport. Not Indiana. They have gotten better, as you stated, from last season when they were pretty doggone good enough to make the college football playoff last season. It's incredible for them to level up from last season. Walking off the field in South Bend last season, Curt Cignetti and athletic director Scott Dolson were already talking amongst themselves about what they needed to make sure that they could take the next step. That's what Dolson told me back in October. And hey, they have absolutely paid off those investments, 100%.
My favorite thing is that Cignetti doubled down and is staying in Indiana. I mean, when it's a great signal that when you get the resources at the highest level, when you invest and there's alignment in your administration, man, you can win and compete for a national title. I think a lot of programs around the country can learn from what Indiana's done. The other thing he's done, though, Cignetti has brought an elite coaching staff with him as well. I mean, how about Brian Haynes, the defensive coordinator for Indiana? It's time he gets some more love too, because what he just did against the best receivers in the country and Julian Sayin and had him seeing chaos back there at quarterback is really impressive.
Brought a great coaching staff with him, kept that great coaching staff together. Only one coach from last year is not with them this year. This wild, crazy coaching carousel we've been through, unlike any coaching carousel. You didn't hear anything about the Indiana assistant coaches on that coaching carousel. It ain't because they can't coach. It's because Indiana locked them down as part of the package that was the extension that Curt Cignetti signed earlier this season. When Scott Dolson walked in to Curt Cignetti's office when he was watching film and he said, "Hey, Curt, can I talk to your representatives? I think Penn State, I think Adam Brenneman's Penn State may be calling you." And Curt said, "Yeah, I want to retire here." And within 48 hours, they got that extension done.
One remaining undefeated team. Now Indiana, the number one team. They win the Big Ten championship. Perhaps the Heisman Trophy has already been decided. Fernando Heisman Mendoza. So the remaining question is, where does Ohio State slot? 3 or 4? Do they slot in behind Texas Tech at 4, or do they jump Texas Tech because they only have one loss and Texas Tech only has one loss and they won a conference championship? Where are you putting the Buckeyes in the top 4?
Well, you know where I want to put them. I want to put them out in the top 4 because I want some jeopardy for this Big Ten championship loss. But they will probably end up in front of Texas Tech because their loss is, it's probably the best loss anybody's taken the entire season.
Yeah.
You agree?
I got them at 3 ahead of Texas Tech. Tech's losses to Arizona State. This one for Ohio State's to the Big Ten champion.
Good. I wanted to be number 3 because then I get to face the winner of potentially Tulane and Ole Miss. So I'll take that. I'll take my chances. All right. Congratulations to Indiana. Hey, congrats to Max and Brett, graphics and research and production and all my guys all up there. They love Indiana. Max is our researcher. Brett, he's cutting this game. He's cutting the highlight. I'm sure he's elated right now, as everybody is in Bloomington, as Indiana does something it's never done before, winning the Big Ten championship game for the first time in school history. It's their 3rd title in conference play, first since 1967. That was a split title. Whatever, those are still recognized, but this is the biggest win in Indiana football history. Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers taking down number 1 and previously undefeated and defending national champion Ohio State to win the Big Ten championship. A bonkers finish in the ACC championship game. Virginia forces overtime. Duke with the football. Darian Mensah to Jeremiah Hazley, who scored their first touchdown of this game to make it 7-0. Now it's 27-20. Virginia trying to tie it. Trickeration. And it's picked off by Luke Murgat. Got it! Luke Murgat! Oh, what a play. And Duke wins the ACC championship game, the first overtime game in ACC championship game history, 27-20. You want to talk about a heartbreaker for Virginia? 22 seconds to play. They tie this game up on a touchdown from Chandler Morris to Eli Wood. I mean, it was an incredible drive. 10 plays, 96 yards in a minute and 22 seconds to get to overtime. And then Duke says, nope, we're going to take the ACC title, and we're going to make this confusing, and we're going to make this chaos on Selection Sunday. This ACC Championship postgame report is presented by Capital One. Back here with Adam Brenneman and Richard Johnson. What the heck just happened, Richard Johnson? What in the name of college football is going on out here?
College football always delivers. It looks like college basketball right now. Duke and Indiana are conference champions as we sit in the sport of football. Incredible. Weeks ago, we sat on this desk and said it was a possibility that a then 4-loss Duke could make the ACC championship game, win the ACC championship game, and throw the entire college football playoff race into an absolute tizzy. They lost their 5th game. I gave up on the dream. And then the math gods got into our favor and gave us a 5-loss Duke in the ACC championship game. And try as they might, by the way, they almost gave this game away. They're up by 2 possessions late. Virginia stormed back, driving their lives for the Hoos to tie this up. And then it gets into overtime. And Trickeration Nation at the worst possible time there. And Duke, 5-loss Duke, ACC champions. I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow afternoon when we try to put a field of 12 teams at them together. I don't know. But for now, this was absolutely incredible for the Blue Devils to pull this off.
Yeah, Duke just absolutely broke the college football playoff. The rules, the committee was not ready for this to happen. I think first, let's acknowledge what a job by Manny Diaz in his 2nd year at Duke to get his team to battle through the season despite some of the losses and find a way to win the ACC championship. And Duke played with the style tonight they had to, the style of their head coach, Manny Diaz. Chaos, forcing turnovers, a turnover that won them the game, going for it on 4th down in the first overtime when you could have kicked the field goal. How about 2 fake punts in this game that gave Duke the edge? They created chaos. They controlled the tempo of this game. Their quarterback, Darian Mensah, is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. If you haven't watched him play this year, go check him out because he's a big-time player.
Yeah, he had 30 passing touchdowns this season. How about the play by Luke Murgat? First career INT to end a game in overtime. This is what we projected because both of you picked Duke to win this game.
Which is
both
crazy.
of you picked
Guys,
Duke.
it was only a 4-point spread. I couldn't believe so many people were just absolutely discounting Duke's chances to win this game. Look, it is so hard to beat a team twice, no matter what happens. And you saw in this game, guys, Virginia absolutely smoked this Duke team first time out. They were up 31-3 at one point in time in that game. But Duke, credit to them, what do? They take the ball and they march it down the field. First drive of the game, by the way, they hold, 9 minutes off the clock? They play bully ball.
9:38.
Fake a punt and take advantage of a penalty by Virginia to take the ball all the way down the field and just bully Virginia on that first possession, and they set the tone. What did we say in our game preview?
It's got
to start fast, and they did start fast, put points on the board on that first drive of the game, and were able to do it in this game. Again, hard to beat a team twice.
Both of their first touchdown drives lasted 8 minutes. I mean, Virginia just didn't have the football. They didn't have a chance to make any plays, and they got into a fast start. They create chaos. It's as if they listened to our pregame show, and they said, just follow what Adam Brenneman and Richard Johnson say. We're going to win this game.
Coaches should start watching CBS Sports HQ. They'd start winning some more games. But listen, it ended up for Duke, they controlled time possession all game long. 35 minutes they controlled the clock in this game compared to 25 minutes for Virginia. So that allowed them to run the football, to keep Darian Mensah in good positions. I do want to give a lot of credit to Virginia for coming back in this game. We thought it was over. We're watching the Big Ten championship game, and all of a sudden it's a tie ball game. I mean, Virginia came back. Chandler Morris made some big throws in this game. It's really been a phenomenal season for Tony Elliott. There was talk about Tony Elliott being on the hot seat coming into this season for Virginia. Now he makes the conference championship game. Has to be heartbreaking for them. I mean, they're a play away from playing in the college football playoff.
I mean, 22 seconds to go, Chandler Morris to Eli Wood to tie this game up. He got the receiver Wood got pushed out of bounds, comes back in bounds, makes the catch to tie it. That was a 10-play, 96-yard drive for Virginia to tie it up and go to overtime. I mean, this had everything you wanted in a college football game. And Virginia early on, that's what they're going to go back to. The miscues, missed field goal in the first quarter. Turnover on downs at Duke's 24 in the fourth quarter, allowed 3 conversions on fourth down, as you see here. And then, of course, the game-sealing interception in overtime. And that's what does them in. They get oh so close and just boom, your playoff spot pulled from underneath you.
And you see the Virginia allowing 4 on fourth down. When I see that, think about Duke going for it 4 times on fourth down. That's what won Duke this game. We said it coming in. They had nothing to lose. There was nothing to play for, really, because they're not going to make the playoff probably, but nothing to lose. It allows Manny Diaz to go for it 4 times on fourth down, converted all 4 of them. It was the chaos, the control, the destiny that won Duke this game.
And Manny Diaz does have that riverboat gambler to him, loves the analytics, loves finding edgewise ways to get an advantage, and they used it in this game. You know, there's a team that won a conference championship today in the Big 12 in Texas Tech that people say, oh, well, they went out and bought that team. But as quiet as it's kept, there was an anonymous donation that was the largest in Virginia athletics history by an anonymous donor earlier this year to Virginia. And so we don't really talk about the fact that Virginia was able to buy themselves a chance to go to the ACC championship, but they did as well. Chandler Morris, among many others. Monroe Mills is an offensive lineman, hasn't even played this year because he got hurt in spring practice. So Virginia, by the way, got oh so close, and you mentioned what Tony Elliott was able to do this season, coming in on the hot seat, saying, man, if he's not able to get it done. But you looked at their schedule and you said, you know, it's kind of easy. Maybe there's a way that they can get to 7 or 8 wins, and they end up doing what they did. It has been a phenomenal season for Virginia. It is a heartbreaker for them to get so close to doing something that they have not done in so long, and then to get to the college football playoff, which would have been just absolutely program changing for them to be able to do that. It would have been an awesome moment for them. They get so close. Credit to Tony Elliott and what the Hoos have been able to do this season, even though they fall short in this one. We're
going to talk about what this means coming up throughout the night here, but this has to be addressed. Do you think that a 5-loss Duke team will move ahead of James Madison in the rankings? Because that's what matters. JMU came into the week 25th in the college football playoff rankings with a win over Virginia, 17th in the college football playoff rankings. Do you think Duke, they're of course going to make the rankings, they're going to be in there, but do they jump ahead of JMU? That's the biggest question, because the 5 highest-ranked conference champions are guaranteed a spot in the field. It's not an at-large spot here. I want to make that crystal clear. This is not an at-large. This isn't JMU versus Duke. This is not how it works. It's conference championship, where conference champion where they are ranked. So do you think the committee goes, we're putting in Duke with 5 losses over JMU, who won the Sun Belt?
No, I do not. Duke will not be in the college football playoff field as far as I am concerned. The second I saw JMU pop up at number 25 last week Tuesday when we sat on this desk, and the second I saw that, I said, okay, the committee is tipping their hand. JMU, if they would be able to win the Sun Belt Championship, which they did Friday night, would be the 5th highest ranked conference champion. I think there's too many losses on Duke's resume, including a loss to Tulane earlier this season. You're not letting a 5-loss team in the college football playoff, even though they are a conference champion. I just do not see them doing that.
Yeah, I really think if Duke had 1 less loss, this would be much closer. If they were a 4-loss team, they would be having this debate some more. But, I mean, Duke's got a loss to Tulane, as Richard mentioned, a loss to UConn. There's some bad losses on this Duke schedule. I really think we're going to get no ACC teams in the playoff.
Whew, wow. That's going to be something to digest. no ACC team, a Power 4 conference, not in the college football playoff. They had 2 last season, and now potentially getting 0 zippy because Duke comes and wrecks the party. 8-5, Duke knocks off Virginia in overtime, and they get revenge here. They lost in November to Virginia by 17. And look, they win this game in wild, dramatic fashion. But now it remains, will Duke be ranked higher than James Madison? Our guys don't think so. We'll wait to see on Sunday. The final set of college football playoff rankings will be released on Sunday. Here's a look at Brad Crawford's bracket prediction. So, top 4. He's got Indiana as they beat Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. Ohio State only dropping to 2, according to Brad. Georgia at 3, Texas Tech at 4, 8-9. Notre Dame and Oklahoma. I'll mention that Oklahoma is 0-5 all-time against Notre Dame in Norman. James Madison, the champion out of the Sun Belt, heading to Eugene to play Oregon, where there'll be a projected 28.5-point underdog. No, I'm just kidding, but it's going to be a massive spread. Tulane in a rematch against Ole Miss. They got blown out earlier in the season, 45-10. And Alabama and Texas A&M in the 10-7 matchup, a matchup we did not see in the regular season, and perhaps we get it in the first round. Again, these are the predictions according to Brad Crawford, what his bracket looks like. We'll get the final bracket on Sunday afternoon. This college football playoff look ahead is presented by Capital One, here with Adam Brenneman, Richard Johnson, and welcome in the aforementioned Brad Crawford. Let's start with Alabama. Alabama did not look like a playoff team in their blowout loss to Georgia in the SEC title game, and one of their own agrees. 2-time Alabama national champ Damian Harris had this to say post-game in Atlanta.
Damian Harris, Alabama running back. Do you think Alabama's a playoff team?
You got to be real.
No, they are not. Miami, I would have a lot of confidence that they would score more than 7 points against this defense. Texas already did it. Vanderbilt, I believe they could do it. This Alabama team, specifically the offense, it did not look playoff caliber. Straight up and down, Hakeem. Straight up and down.
Damian, thank you. Brad, are you keeping Alabama out? What's the case to keep the 3-loss Tide in the field?
No, Alabama's my last team in. I think it comes down to Alabama or Miami for that final at-large berth. I think it's going to be given to the Crimson Tide. Look, is it time to devalue conference championship games? That's the question the selection committee is going to have to ask itself tonight and into the wee hours of the morning in Grapevine, Texas. If Alabama does not make this 12-team field because of its loss Saturday afternoon in Atlanta, then I think the end of conference championship game weekend is near. Alabama did enough during the regular season. By the way, they did beat Georgia in a true road game, 24-21. I just think Alabama's going to be that team in over Miami.
Yeah, I agree with Brad. I think Alabama is going to make the college football playoff. You cannot punish a team for having a 13th game, playing in the conference championship game in the best conference in football and losing that game. Oh, by the way, to a team they beat earlier in the season, the Georgia Bulldogs. I think Alabama will be in the playoff to protect conference championship games, but also because Alabama is deserving. They went on that run in the middle of the season, beat 3 straight ranked teams. This is an Alabama team that played in the SEC, the gauntlet of the schedule, and won a ton of games, Richard.
Well, to be honest with you guys, I don't care what happens with the rankings today, or tomorrow, I should say. Well, it is today. It's after midnight. I think that conference championship games are going the way of the doter in the medium to long term. So we'll get to that. That's a separate discussion. But to me, guys, I think the committee was setting it up to do what I do think they are going to do tomorrow. I know Brad disagrees, but I think Miami gets in and Notre Dame stays home.
Notre Dame stays home. Okay. All right. So, Brad, perhaps the committee drops Alabama to 1 spot to 10, moves Notre Dame up to 9, even though Richard disagrees. What do you tell Miami in this scenario when they beat Notre Dame earlier this season and just watched Alabama get blown out?
If I'm the committee member or Hunter, you're the committee chair, I'm telling Miami what I've told them the last 4.5 weeks. We believe Notre Dame is a better team than you, Miami, despite the head-to-head win. The committee has told us that. Hakeem, these last few rankings. And I think the committee showed its hand a little bit last week in these penultimate rankings when it moved Alabama from 10 to number 9, sort of to preclude this scenario, which is unfolding tonight, where Alabama got blown out by Georgia. The committee saw this could be a possible scenario, and to keep Alabama in despite losing to Georgia, now all you got to do is move them one spot back. I just don't think the committee all of a sudden changes its mind after we've seen the opinion for 4.5 weeks be Notre Dame is better than Miami.
So the eye test will tell you what when you rank Notre Dame and Miami next to each other.
Yeah, Notre Dame's the better football team right now. I mean, Notre Dame now has the win against Boise State, who won the Mountain West Conference as well, has the win against USC, has a win against a ranked Pitt team. That was a big-time game on the road. Miami lost in November to SMU. I mean, we're talking about Notre Dame's losses were the first 2 weeks of the year to Miami and a really good Texas A&M team. I don't even think it's really that much of a debate. I think Brad somewhat agrees with that. Notre Dame is the better football team right now, and the committee's going to put them in the playoff.
You know, I actually do agree with you guys that Notre Dame's the better football team. I think it's slight, but I do think if you put them on a neutral field today, I think Notre Dame would edge Miami out. However, we put them on Miami's home field September 1st, the first week of the season, and we saw how that played out. So I do think that in their debates, I think they will finally do what a lot of people have been begging them to do for the last 5-6 weeks, which is finally judge Miami's head-to-head victory over Notre Dame and use that to slot them above Notre Dame in their calculus and put them in the field. I don't think they've done that so far during all these rankings.
We're talking about at-large bids, right? So my question here in this scenario, and as a fan sitting here thinking this, okay, Miami beat Notre Dame earlier in the season, but then you're trying to tell me that Miami's not as good as Alabama right now. If you're talking about the 12 best teams and you're talking about at-large berths, and there's 7 of them, you're trying to tell me right now that Alabama is a better football team than the way Miami finished the season.
Well, I think with the Alabama SEC championship game calculus, you have to factor in that Alabama has a 13th data point in there.
Why do we have to factor that?
We have to factor it in because Miami doesn't have one.
Agreed.
Go ahead, Brad.
And Miami didn't make its conference championship game in the weakest Power 4. I mean, Miami had a shot to...
And that conference is going to change they're going to change their qualifications to get in, because now this is what's going to happen out of the ACC is they're going to get left out, which we're going to get to that in a second. But now Miami is sitting at home thinking, well, what the heck do we have to do to get in? Yeah, you got to play for your conference championship. I get that. But if you're telling me the conference championship is going the way of the dodo, then what does it matter?
You shouldn't have lost to SMU.
No, you should. You're right.
Well, Miami stubbed its toe twice. Miami has no one to blame but itself if the committee has the Hurricanes as the first team out on Sunday afternoon.
Okay. People are going to be upset about this.
I was about to say, I think Miami going to be blaming the committee. I'm just saying,
this is going to rage on for days after the committee announces its final rankings on Sunday, and we're going to sit here and go, well, did the results matter on the field? You're telling me that Miami beat Notre Dame, but Miami's not in the college football playoff because they didn't play for their conference championship. They had a bad loss. It's so confusing to a college football fan right now when you look at results and you're supposed to go, okay, we did enough, but then you're telling me we didn't do enough.
Yeah, but is it all that confusing? I mean, Notre Dame rattled off 10 wins in a row, multiple ranked wins, and is playing as well as enough to be in the college football playoff. Miami lost in November to SMU and to Louisville in October. So those are 2 recent losses, and they're not playing very well. Alabama played in the SEC championship game, lost that game, while Miami didn't play in their conference championship game in the weakest conference in the Power 4 college football because they didn't make it to the game because of those bad losses they had. I think it makes a lot of sense. Notre Dame and Bama are in the playoffs.
I will also say for Notre Dame, let's say Notre Dame is left out, theoretically. Notre Dame would only have themselves to blame in that scenario, in my opinion, because Notre Dame, over the last 150 years, you could have joined a conference at any time. I'm sure the Big Ten or the SEC or the ACC would love to have you as a full-time member.
If Notre Dame gets left out.
The last time I checked, 3 losses is more losses than 2 losses. So Alabama's going to get in the playoff with 3 losses, but it happened in a conference championship, which we're being told conference championships don't really matter anymore. Miami didn't play in a conference championship. They only have 2 losses. They beat a team that's going to be in the field. Then make it clearer. Make it clearer for the college football fan, because somebody's going to get left out, and we complained about this in the 4-team field, and now there's going to be more complaints in the 12-team field, so then it's going to expand, and you have all of these qualifications, and you have 5 conference champions that are going to get in, and that leads us to the next thing, because now, Brad, it looks like James Madison will get in, be that 12 seed, because Duke won the ACC title, and Duke will likely not be ranked higher than the Dukes. So that means James Madison will be the 12 seed. This is absolute bonkers because Duke has broken the college football playoff.
Richard said it last week, Hakeem, and we've been talking about this for almost a month now on set, just that this ACC chaos scenario unfolded exactly how we explained it through these wild scenarios. Duke and Darien Menza beat Virginia in overtime. Now you've got Miami on the outside looking in. You've got JMU was ranked this week for the first time. How sly is the committee, by the way, just putting JMU in at number 25, not 22, not 23. Let's rank them just at 25. And by the way, we've got no idea where they've slotted Duke. You know, are they 36th? Are they 42nd? They're probably well beyond JMU. So I think Duke's out. ACC champions likely heading to the Sun Bowl. How about that?
So the group of 5 is going to get 2 teams in.
Yeah, they are.
And you're going to say, based on this system, Miami's going to get left out in the cold because of the 5 highest-ranked conference champions guaranteed a spot.
Maybe Miami should have beaten SMU or Louisville, and maybe the ACC should have protected its teams by adding CFP to its tie-breaking scenario. Go ahead, Brad.
I've got no issue with Notre Dame and Miami making this bracket if Bama's left out. The biggest issue I would have is if Miami is ranked ahead of Notre Dame, because the committee has told us for a solid month that they like Notre Dame better than Miami, despite the head-to-head on-field result. And the Irish and Hurricanes were idle. So how do you move a team ahead of another one when you've told us for a month you like the other one better? It just makes no sense. Miami and Notre Dame, that's fine if you put both those teams in the bracket, but I better not see Miami ranked ahead of Notre Dame on Sunday.
Well, we're going to find out Sunday afternoon, Selection Sunday, the final college football playoff ranking. We'll see how it all shakes out. Here's another look at Brad Crawford's bracket prediction. Got Indiana at 1, Ohio State only slipping to 2, Georgia at 3, Texas Tech at 4. And you see there James Madison in as the 12 seed, going to play Oregon in this projected bracket, Tulane in a rematch against Ole Miss. Alabama, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Miami left out in the cold. Duke left out in the cold. BYU left out in the cold. Man, this is getting hot. The college football playoff going to all come down to Selection Sunday. Strike a pose, the Heisman Trophy ceremony next Saturday. Here's a look at the contenders. Fernando Heisman-Doza had his Heisman moment in the Big Ten Championship. Most passing touchdowns in a season in Indiana history, 33 of them, 13-0 into the college football playoff. Diego Pavia, a program changer. What a season that he had for Vanderbilt. Jeremiah Love, 11 straight games with a rushing touchdown. Julian Sand, highest completion percentage in FBS. As you take a look at the odds to win the most prestigious individual award in college football. And Fernando Heisman-Doza, minus 3,000. Just give it to him. This Heisman Trophy preview is presented by Capital One, here with former Penn State tight end Adam Brenneman and CBS Sports college football insider Richard Johnson. Richard, you have a Heisman ballot, so we are not allowed to ask you who you are voting for. But from your perspective, is this over?
You know, it's funny. I think that nobody really ever grabbed this Heisman race by the scruff of the neck in November, where Heismans are really won and lost. We have had Heisman races recently that have come down all the way to Conference Championship Saturday. You remember the year Bryce Young won it? Bryce Young really did not grab that Heisman until Conference Championship Saturday, when he took Alabama to beat Georgia in the SEC title game. So, you know, we've seen races like this, but I don't really know that there had been a true standout as we got into November, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fernando Mendoza has done enough to win the Heisman Trophy. That's what the odds are telling us. Undefeated season, the #1 team in college football. And now, in this game, one of the biggest games of the year against Ohio State, leads his team to victory. Yes, his numbers weren't extremely flashy, but he made critical plays when they had to be made, including a game-clinching play on 3rd down in the 4th quarter. Mendoza this season, 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He also had that Heisman moment against Penn State when he led them down the field on the final drive of the game when it looked like Penn State was going to win that game and beat Indiana. I think I've seen enough from Fernando Mendoza to win the Heisman.
Okay, well, since the first Heisman was awarded in 1935, a running back has won the award in every year that's ended in a 5. Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love, please stand up. 4th best odds. He's got rushing touchdowns in 11 straight games. Adam, what's your reaction to the trend of running backs winning every year that ends in 5?
Yeah.
And what can you say about the season Jeremiah Love put together?
My reaction, it's a wild coincidence. I'm not sure it's going to happen in 2025, but I mean, Jeremiah Love has been phenomenal this season. I think about how much he impacts Notre Dame's roster, that offense. Without Jeremiah Love, I don't think that Notre Dame offense is very good. They're not moving the football the way they are. The way what he does on the ground protects their quarterback, C.J. Carr. Such a big piece of this system, and he's a talented back who's got great body control, great contact balance, but the piece he has that a lot of backs don't is that extra long speed where he can take it to the house anytime he touches the ball.
He's an absolute freak show with the ball in his hands. I mean, the way his body moves is just so unique. You know, you go back even last year where he's got the knee injury going to the college football playoff. He says, well, I'm not going to hurdle anymore, and then he hurdles somebody at Penn State in the Orange Bowl. I mean, it's just incredible. And you also have to consider the fact that Jeremiah Love, there's a lot of second halves he's not in.
Yeah,
right.
Because Notre Dame's winning games by 60-odd points, or like in the Stanford game, their last regular season game, where he actually gets hurt in the first half of that game. So they're being a little bit cautious with him in the second half. So you have to consider that as well with Love's incredible yardage total.
Julian Sand had an exceptional season. Completion percentage, best in the season in FBS history. Diego Pavia came to Vanderbilt and changed that program around. Just the impact that both of those quarterbacks had on their programs is massive. They may not win the award, but they're certainly deserving to be in the conversation.
Yeah, to start with Julian Sand, what he did in his first year as a starter cannot be overstated. The amount of poise he played with, the control. He did exactly what he had to do in order to allow Ohio State to win games, get the ball to his playmakers and not turn it over and be efficient. To me, I think Diego Pavia deserves a spot in New York City. I mean, this guy completely carried a program. There's no player I can think of in recent history that has elevated a program the way Diego Pavia has elevated Vanderbilt. I mean, he has completely changed the perspective around that program, along with his head coach, Clark Lee. He's brought excitement to Nashville. He's brought buzz around that city, and his numbers prove it as well. He's been great on the ground. I think without Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt's, maybe a 5-6 win team.
I mean, he's an absolute statue player, and he might grab that stiff arm statue next Saturday night.
Okay, we'll see
good.
about that. Because unfortunately, we're not going to get to see him play in the college football playoff. I was hoping that we'd be able to see Diego Pavia and that continue in the CFP. But man, this is a Heisman Trophy that looks like it's going to be awarded to Fernando Heisman Mendoza. We've been saying that all along. The Heisman Trophy has historically been an award reserved for quarterbacks and running backs. Last year, it was two-way star Travis Hunter. Prior to that, a quarterback won the Heisman in 7 of the previous 8 seasons.